when you have lines that repeat, it does a few things. One, it reveals the intentionality, because if it's repeating, then that means that's what the artist or the composer wants you to see or feel or get, okay? So it's done intentionally. It also adds a clarity to your work. So if I was audibly giving you instruction and I said, get up and go to the left, get up and go to the left, get up and go to the left, you would know what to do. Very, very clear. You get up and go to the left. But if I told you, hey, get up and go to the left, or get up and go to the right, get up and go behind the chair, you wouldn't really know what to do, and because there's a difference, okay? So having that repetition adds clarity. It also adds stability to the concept or to what you're trying to express. So if you have, let's say you want something that's calm and you put a horizontal in there, and it's just a thin horizontal across the page, it's there, but if you can multiply that, repeat it, it becomes stronger, okay? It has more stability. So that's what a repeating line is going to give you. It's going to really reveal the intentionality, the clarity, and the stability in a piece, okay? And by saying in a piece, really what I'm talking about is in that story, okay? Because line is design, and design is storytelling. So we're going to look at this piece by the great Norman Rockwell, okay? This is cool. And we're going to look at repetition in here, okay? So first thing we want to do is gray it out. Now, one trick to finding the repetition, if you need help with it, is to first look for the big rectangles. And let me show you what I mean by that. When something is repeating, there's lines that are parallel. Now, this is very important that they're parallel, because if they're not parallel, then they're going to converge at some point. So what you're looking for are parallel lines. So you can see here very clearly that there's parallel lines going on in there. That forms a rectangle, okay? There are parallel lines in here, both going vertically and horizontally. Now, you don't have to, for your assignment, get into the nuances, like not nuances, but get so anal about it, okay? We're trying to look for the big masses here, okay? And so what I want you to really look at, in this case, you're gonna see these parallel lines that are going across the image here. Obviously, these go down. There's a lot of vertical thrusts in there. And same with here, coming down here. You can see that there are a couple verticals that are being repeated in here, as well as horizontals, okay? Now, what's interesting is the repetition. You can see repetition of these horizontals coming down in the chair down there, okay? And then you can also create a box that's a rectangle that's moving in that kind of direction, okay? Now, once you have that, then you want to basically echo. And I'm going to echo Okay. Okay, so what you want to look for is basically your horizontal lines that are coming through here. Okay. Now, when you look at that, I always look at the spaces that are created, and then especially if there's people in it, if their heads breaking into that space, usually it's communicating what the artist wants you to understand about what they're thinking. Okay, so this servant man on this, I'm assuming is a train. Okay, he's looking at this little boy, but he's not thinking anything horrible or bad or aggressive or anything like that. He's, you know, he's just kind of smiling, right? He's enjoying this moment. It's a very like a break for him, if you will. On the side, so it's a very peaceful moment for him. Okay. Uh, on the side here, you see these verticals coming down through here. So you're repeating these elements. There's a little line coming through here. And so when we're repeating the lines, it's going to be very similar to the echoes and a lot of the other projects we've done, okay? But what I'm trying to get you to understand is that there's a reason why he's moving the eye up so strong, and then across, and then back down, okay? Down through here. The horizontals are coming through here, okay? So this man primarily, even though he curves a little bit, he's primarily a big vertical thrust. Would you guys agree with that? He we're not going to get into value too much, but he's wearing a very white outfit, which almost blends him into the background. And what's interesting is I love how Rockwell does it, where the man kind of he's a good servant, waiter, because he's not present, but he's there, right? He's kind of lured into the environment. He's part of the environment. I remember I had a waitress, probably the best waitress I've ever had. And we were at a hamburger place, and she was off to the side. And I remember her watching us. And we were talking, and she timed it so perfectly that when, like every 20 minutes, like he stopped talking and it's like that weird little silence, boom, she was right there, right? I hate when waiters come and they interrupt you in the middle of a conversation. It's like, I didn't want water. I'm in the middle of a conversation, right? So, but she was like hypersensitive to our tables, and she knew when to come and when to go, and you could see her, but she was part of like the energy of the environment. She knew how to flow in and out. It was fascinating. So here with the boy, you can see in his hair, his face, his neck. Now we're not looking for precision in this case. We're just kind of looking for this general energy that's moving in that direction, okay? And you can feel it coming up through here. You can see it in the little lines that are going through his comic book, which is kind of funny. And so all of this is moving us up into this direction. And in this sea of and I like how when we get to his little purse, we go back horizontal. You see how when you're reading it at those nuanced levels, it brings in a lot of clarity to the image. The little boy is new to this world. He's the thing that's out, like this world is so ordered and so formal and so organized, and he's new to it. He's just this little diagonal that, kind of, he doesn't really know his place in it. He's trying to figure it out. And well, he's trying to order food and deal with money and trying to make decisions. It's kind of cool. So let's go here. And you can see now the basic energy of that that painting or that composition when we're dealing with these parallel lines. Let me unmute you guys. Take any questions that you have right now. Unmute you all. So Donna,
yes.
are you there? What are your thoughts?
I'm here. I'm here. My thoughts?
Yes.
Yeah, it's really amazing. It has that very orderly elegance, and of course, my mind says, "Oh, it's because it's a beautiful train car, and everyone is dressed so nicely and all of that." But actually, it's in these beautiful, elegant horizontals and verticals, and then you have the fish out of water, the little boy, and it's just perfect. And would you say that, DV, that a counterpoint to that fish out of water of the little boy is the round water jug right on the table? Would you say that he kind of balances it out, or what is the role of that very, beautiful picture on the table? Or I know it's to get her eye back to the little boy, but I just wanted to know what are your other beautiful thoughts?
It's interesting because the picture is on an angle, right? So it kind of repeats the angle of the boy, but it's also really like the enclosure or the arabesque in this image, which is what we were dealing with last time. And when I feel it, when I feel that energy, it makes me feel this energy, right? Which is very similar to which is the back of that man's head. Okay. Let me erase all these lines because we've already got this point.
DV, I would have been looking at this picture for a whole year and I wouldn't have seen it, and yet it's right in front of me. That's something.
And then you have this angle, which is this angle. Okay. You have this gentle little curve, which is coming through here, which probably mimics through his eyes. Okay. So this, to me, that water picture is this man. A lot of times when you see pictures in let's say Christian art, it's a symbol of a person who's being filled or who's pouring into someone else. Okay. And so, I think that's kind of what this picture is moving into. It's like, I like how this little steam comes through here and it breaks into this little boy's space, so now I'm not, I don't know if that was, just a picture that was laying around or whatever, but I do look at the design of it, and the design mimics this fella, almost to a T. I mean, it even looks the same size and stuff, so it's interesting. Okay, so let's go on. Anybody else have any other questions on the parallel lines?
I do. I have a question. Like, you did not do the windows. Was it because they were interrupted by the bodies so much that even though we know they're rectangles?
You could. I mean, you have these verticals coming down through here, which is being repeated. You got the horizontals. You got all of these horizontals in the city, which is this little man-made city back there. It's just the whole point of it. This whole entire piece is that the entire piece is verticals and horizontals to really, really, really show you that it's a stable, constructed, intentional environment. And this little boy breaks that energy because he's the little diagonal in it. Okay, he hasn't fallen in line yet. Okay, and and so yeah, that's what I so I just left it out, but it falls in the same feel as the rest of the composition. All right.
Victor, do you think that the triangle napkin on the right side of the table was done to sort of repeat the diagonal of the tablecloth fold down there? Or why, do you think there was a reason to put in that little triangle shaped napkin on the table next to the pot?
There's a reason for everything. These guys don't do things without having reason for it. But
Yeah.
that's all. Once you get into the grid work in the academy, you'll understand why these things are important. And actually, next week you'll understand it even more because we'll get into gamut. But yeah, that's what we're really looking at. So right now,
Don
for the
Victor,
last 4 weeks.
Sorry, Don Victor, I got a question here.
Yeah.
How does it differ from echoing the horizontal and verticals which we did before? Like, echoing the...
It doesn't.
It doesn't. Okay.
It just, because this is horizontals and verticals, and you did that in a thrust map and an echo map, it's the same thing.
Right.
But what I'm trying to share with you is that those were just done randomly. You felt it, you saw the horizontal, you saw the diagonal, you're just repeating what you saw. Here, you're looking now for parallel lines. And the parallel lines could be verticals, they could be horizontals, they can be an array of diagonals. And the difference right now is that you're looking for parallel lines to help to understand what the artist is reinforcing. Okay? So the exercise of the thrust map is just a way to kind of help you begin to scan an image and start pulling out information.
And let me just also add, Don Victor, the way you started, because I like to take notes. You said it so beautifully. Line is the design, and it's through line that we tell the story and help to trigger emotions. So I think Don Victor is trying to show you how this repetition of horizontals and verticals mostly are evoking an emotion of stability, and everything is very traditional and calm. And then the diagonal lines in the little boy break that energy and have a different energy. Do you agree?
Yeah. And
that's the purpose of this kind of lesson, to help us understand how we are creating the music.
Got it, yes. Okay.
Absolutely. And, that diagonal would be the dominant diagonal in the piece, and so we're not just looking for what's there, but we're now focusing. What I'm trying to show you guys is how to see and then read, right? You need to find it. You need to reveal it first and then read it or interpret it, okay? What the problem with people when they say, oh, it's open to interpretation, your artwork's open to interpretation. Well, no, it's not, unless you didn't plan it. But if you plan it, these guys would be pissed off if you came and sat in front of their artwork and started mouthing off nonsense that had absolutely nothing to do with what they put their hard work into composing, right? So, but you can't read it intelligently until you're able to actually see it. So you have to reveal the design. Then you can interpret it, because it's going to give you the boundaries and the directions and the intensities and things that you need to know what the artist is what the artist is communicating. In terms of the diagonals, so far you guys have really just been focusing more intuitively, feeling things, and then drawing and pulling them out. When Jen asked about these diagonals and the triangles, next week we'll get into actually seeing how intentional each of those angles are. Okay? And so as we go through this process, it's moving from this intuitive feeling, giving you simple marks to figure it out, and then you start to really see how intentional all of this really is. Okay? That comes next week. Stay tuned. All right. So let's move on.
I love the iPhone 7 on the table.
iPhone 7. You're hilarious. It does look like it, right?
Yeah.
It does.
Wait, what's that? What
It
is
looks like
that?
an iPhone 7 on the table.
Yes, it does. It does. I was like, oh, cell phone. Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's funny. There's this painting by Norman Rockwell where these guys are looking at this grandmother and a kid, and they're in this little restaurant, and they're saying grace, right? And I remember I walked into this pizza place, and they're all leaning over like this, in the painting, and they're all saying grace. And I walked into this pizza place, and I saw this table, and they were all leaning over like that. I was like, oh, look at that. How beautiful. It's like a family saying grace, just like a Norman Rockwell painting. And then I look closer, and they're all like texting,
Oh God.
High point of contrast right there. This is about the boy paying the bill. Okay, so that's why that's positioned there. But we'll get to that in 2 weeks from now. All right, guys, let's move on. Now, radiating lines.